Hello, my beautiful patrons, and welcome to a junk journal flip through tour. To note, these are technically blank junk journals because I have not started actually really working in them yet, but I wanted to give you a flip through tour of them, just kind of showing you what they look like blank, what kind of paper I used, how I kind of assembled things together. I also plan on kind of doing a journal with me or junk journal with me kind of series that as I continue to work in these, I'm going to film them and share those videos with you guys, just kind of sharing you my process and how I'm going to put things together. And it's just kind of a fun way to document it. And I thought that it would be fun to kind of have like a before and after, kind of showing what they looked like when they were blank technically, and then as I slowly start to fill them up over time. There is a little bit of construction going on outside. I'm hoping that it doesn't get too loud and I'm able to get through this. It's been really difficult to film this particular video because there's just been like crazy construction noise outside. It is what it is. So just a quick rundown of what kind of junk journals I am doing. I created little golden book junk journals. This is not a new idea. This is by no means something that I came up with. This is a very common method of junk journaling in the junk journal world. I was drawn to the little golden book approach for a couple of different reasons. First, I'm a big fan of having books that are all the same size. For example, even with like my sketchbooks, one of the reasons that I really like to use the same kind of moleskin and the same size of moleskin is that I like seeing them lined up on a shelf all being the same sort of size and shape. So I thought that kind of going down the little golden book route might be a good way to go, just to have them all kind of be uniform, and they're pretty easy to make. So that was the other part too of this as well, is that this particular format of junk journaling is really common. There are tons of tutorials online. There are tons. So I wasn't even going to demonstrate or show you guys the process of how I assembled these, because there are literally, like, I'm not even kidding you, like hundreds of tutorials of how to do this. There was one particular video series that I followed on YouTube from Pam's Paper Place. Her videos were really helpful in just kind of getting the general idea of how to assemble them. So I kind of took what Pam's Paper Place, I love the name of her channel, I did what Pam's Paper Place did a little bit in terms of the binding and kind of the initial taking apart of the book, but I know when it came to like the fabric part and some of the materials I used, I actually ended up kind of using some things that I do when I put together my mini journals. So yeah, any resources that I have used to put these together, basically those videos that I had found on YouTube, and again, there are so many of them, I will be sure to link those for you in the Patreon post along with this video. So a quick recap again as to why I started to junk journal was because first I was saving all these things for the baby. With baby on the way, I was getting sentimental about little scraps of paper and receipts and photos and little mementos, and I was kind of saving them and putting them into a plastic bag, and then really didn't know what to do with them. And even though I had actually a pregnancy journal that I started, and I'll share that with you when I start to junk journal in this, because I'm actually going to be tearing pages out of that and putting it in this when I start working on it. That particular journal had way too much like writing, and I'm not a writer. I'm not a fan of writing big entries. Like I'll write a couple sentences or a little blurb or something like that, but I'm not a big like actual journaler, diary person. That's just not my MO. So after realizing that the pregnancy journal was just a little bit too much writing heavy, I realized that this might be a really great way to go in terms of saving random scraps, being able to kind of quickly assemble or collage things together. Now that I will have a baby, I will probably be very busy, so I didn't really want to have something that would be really too much work or wouldn't be enjoyable to maintain. Something else was that I had a lot of leftover paper. So when we moved from our apartment to our new house, I had so much leftover materials and paper and scraps and all this stuff. So I decided what better way to repurpose all those materials than to put those into these junk journals. So as you can see, I have two. I decided to have two because I wanted one that was kind of my personal stuff, because I've been kind of saving stuff that is just personal to me as well, that I thought would be good with like random pregnancy things or life. And you know, it's a new chapter here, so I thought that that would be kind of a good timing to have that as well. This other one over here is for the baby. So I wanted to have one that actually had the original cover of the Little Golden Book out. You can see on this one I covered it, but the original pages are inside. So this was actually a Snow White Little Golden Book, and you'll see some of the original pages from it inside of it. But I loved this I Am Mr. Spock one. They have a couple of different Star Trek ones, which are just so cute. And I thought that it might be fun to keep the covers on them for the baby's junk journal, because it's too fun, and James and I are such geeks, and there's already so many more that I want to get. It's not even funny. There's a Ghostbusters Little Golden Book that I really want to get for like my Halloween one, because it's just, oh, it's like, that's just too perfect. So yeah, that was another draw to the Little Golden Book junk journal format, is that there's so many new ones and new generations of them, and they're really colorful and fun, and you can kind of theme them out, and it's just a really good time. So I actually made mine first. So let's go through this one first, and I'll show you the pages that I put into it, and then we'll do the baby's one next. It is so hard, by the way, not to say his name. We have a name picked out, and it's like so difficult to keep it a secret because we've known what his name is going to be for months, so it's really hard not to say. But the baby's junk journal we'll do next. So let me give you a flip through tour of my personal junk journal first. All right, so here is my personal junk journal here. And again, I haven't started working in these quite yet, so they are blank technically, so to speak, but they are jam-packed with all sorts of festive paper. This was a Snow White Little Golden Book that I then converted and added in my own pages, but I really liked Snow White's probably one of my favorite Disney movies. Alice in Wonderland is my absolute fave, and I did get an Alice in Wonderland Golden Book, so I'll probably at some point alter that, but I was really drawn to the Snow White one to start, so I went with that. I had some leftover scrap fabric already. This was some Halloween paper that was from a really great stack from Martha Stewart. It was a really old one that I just absolutely loved, and I've saved a lot of that paper for a future Halloween junk journal that I'm like itching to put together, but I'm gonna save that for myself for October, because it's like, okay, come on Roxanne, slow your roll, at least get these going here. So yeah, for my personal one, I just really liked this moth fabric, or this moth paper rather, and I just really like moths in general. I draw them a lot, and it was like a little spooky without going too spooky. That was the hard part for me, is that I really I almost went like Halloween full send on this one, but it was like, no, let me just use some of my other paper, not go crazy with a theme. This one's really not themed out at all. It's kind of just random paper that I liked and that I thought looked good together. So when you open the inside, I did make a little pocket in the front here. This is from an old envelope that somebody had sent me. Originally, I was kind of putting stuff in here that I was going to journal with, but then it kind of got too full, so now I have a separate little like see-through envelope that I'm using to put everything in that I want a junk journal with. And I kind of was just randomly throwing some things on this page initially. Obviously this is by no means like done or anything like that, but I liked this kind of just putting like a little bit of like a title page of on there of like, hello junk 2019, and a little bit of Snow White in the front here. I did rearrange the interior pages from the original Snow White book just to kind of mix it up and mix it in with all the other paper. So it really is like, I feel like when you're making the junk journal, the most time-consuming part isn't even like the binding or making the covers or anything like that. It really is like choosing the paper and making sure that like as you flip through it, the pages work well together, if that makes any sense, or at least you have good variety and some different things going on. So yeah, I have like a little spooky snow page in the front there, which I thought was fun. These books, by the way, my books are 3 signatures, so there is 3 signatures in each one. I do not remember how many pages are in each, but I did allow myself some room because I know that as I put stuff in this, it's gonna really thicken up. So you'll notice it's not super thick at the current moment, but oh boy, it will definitely fill up over time. So we've got Snow White in our first page here, and let me bring you in just a little, just Just a kiss here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we've got Spooky Snow White in the front here with just some random things that I have started to put in. Again, this is by no means done. And here you can kind of see where I'm trying to kind of pair some pages together. So I had this kind of random little envelope and some of my own stickers that I just kind of threw in there. So I have, you know, this little envelope, you know, added in later. Here's the back of that Snow White page, which is really fun. And then I have this crazy contrasting floral. And this was all just leftover paper that I had in a big bin and in a scrapbook box that really didn't have a home. So I made a home for it here in my personal junk journal. I did do some painting over some pages. So this is gesso and what is this? This is gesso, a little bit of black ink, and then some of the Jane Davenport crayons. I did do that to treat some of the pages, but I tried really not to go overboard with treating pages. I really wanted to keep it as simple as possible just because I feel like it gives me more flexibility when I actually come in here and start to, you know, add stuff to the pages, because then I feel like I could add paint or do whatever I want to it then. So I wasn't gonna go crazy initially. Here's some just simple marble paper. On the back side, again, this was all just random leftover paper that I had in my scrapbook bin. This was the back of some spooky paper. This was like a Marie Antoinette looking black and white Xerox copy that I had. Just made a really simple like fold over. I was trying to play with kind of the different types of pages by tearing some and folding some. Again, some really simple red paper. And again, you can see that there's really no theme here, like at all, which is either gonna be good or bad. I don't know. I have a theme for the baby's book, which was easier to use. How to explain this? Having a theme is easier when it comes to assembling the paper together. Not having a theme made it more difficult, but this might be more flexible when I actually come in here and start adding stuff. I'm not entirely sure. This was this really cool vintage photograph of this husband and wife with a bunch of snakes, which I thought was really cool. And it was big enough to kind of make into a whole page. More leftover paper. I also tried not to go too crazy with flappy flaps of any sort, because I feel like this is, again, something else that I can add in as I'm adding stuff in. So I really wanted to give myself that flexibility later. Again, this was just some leftover, I don't even know what this is. This is sketchbook paper, I think, that had some of the ink and kind of Jane Davenport crayon stuff on there. It's really faint. You can barely see it. And then just kind of mixing some paper together. You can also see where I just kind of like folded over pieces of paper too, just to like have different page sizes. I just made it really easy for myself. Just really tried not to overthink it here. On this page, I have like an old map, which I did stain a little bit with some ink. Again, I was experimenting. This was my first one, my first junk journal, putting it together. And I kind of just realized in starting to experiment with this that I was like, ugh, I don't like treating paper. This is too much work. It's already too much work to even just assemble all the pages together. So I was really like, ugh, I don't know about adding more mediums to it. I'd rather have the flexibility to do that later. So I quickly learned that I really don't want to or like kind of doing this thing. So again, I had a little page that folds out or that could be turned into a pocket. Who knows? Continuing on, seeing the back sides of things here now because it's the back half of the signature. I just really like this paper. It's really fun. Here's the rest of that vintage photograph. The red paper again. This was like some leftover Halloween paper I had that has like spells written on it. More Marie Antoinette. You can see this is like the back half of the pages. I really was keeping it pretty simple here. Some polka dots and marble. Here is more of that treated paper that I had with the gesso. And then this was the last page in this particular signature. So here's that floral paper again. I really just love this. I added a little Los Angeles postcard. And then here is the back of the Snow White page of this particular one. And then I put this random little pocket in. I feel like I will probably end up tearing that out, but it is what it is. And then it moves on to the next signature, which if some of you were on Twitch, you might recognize the raccoons, the infamous raccoon paper. I had a ton of it left over, so it's now in a junk journal, and it seemed to pair well with Snow White. So that's that. Again, more random leftover paper. This is paper that I would like never actually myself go out and probably buy, at least now. So it's a perfect place that it ends up in a junk journal. More Snow White pages. Here I am kind of cutting some paper down, again playing with kind of page sizes so not everything is exactly the same. This paper is a little bit textured actually. It has kind of some, I don't know what this is, but it is textured, so it's a little bit different. It's not just super plain white. So we have another Snow White page here. Again, I think these will all be really fun to kind of work with. This was from out of a old book that I had that I was using as an altered book journal that I have since tore up, so I used some of the paper out of that. Again, some older scrapbook paper, and I just kind of would cut these in weird sizes and then kind of like tear off edges, again, just to kind of make the pages a little bit different. Some leftover mulberry paper. Another page from a book that I had cut up that was an altered book that isn't anymore. More Snow White pages. Here's the center of the second signature. More pages again. I really liked this combination from this particular book and kind of the blues with like this yellow mustard mulberry thing happening here. Thought that was really cool. Again, this is the back side of the signature, so you're kind of seeing the back side of the pages that I really didn't do a whole lot to. Here's that textured paper again. So it's not totally pure white. Some of my scrapbook paper was double-sided, so that was nice. If it wasn't, I just would glue other paper to the back side of it. So some of them are like nice and thick and others are thinner. So there's really like a lot of flexibility here in terms of when I actually start putting stuff in here. I have a lot that I can work with. This is just a little bag that I've had for like a million years, I feel like. So I just turned that into like a little pocket. Again, I really tried not to go crazy with pockets because I think that that's something that I want to be able to add later on. And then here's the back of that signature again with the raccoons. Here's another chunk of that red paper, which was double-sided, so you can see that here. So now we're in the third signature in the back here. Kind of some random stuff here. This makes sense once you get to the other side. It's printed alligators, but I thought it kind of looked fun with their tails sticking out, so I went with it. Kind of just some old book pages, some black and white stripes, some just fun larger pieces of ephemera that I wasn't going to use in any kind of journaling. Here's some more of that map that I kind of added a little bit of a fold to. I had a lot of this paper too. This is like really old, like sketch paper. So that's kind of nice, just kind of breaking up the white a little bit. More from that book as well. Sleeping / Dead Snow White here. This was also something that this was part of a bag that I tore off. And I really like this paper. I can't remember what this was from, but this was again something that I had just in my box of scrapbooking stuff that I never scrapbooked with. It was just a giant box of paper. This was the middle of the signature. Here's the back half. I think this was actually from a coloring book. Yeah, this was a random coloring book that I bought at Comic-Con one year that I didn't do anything with. So I ended up just kind of cutting that up and using that as pages, which is kind of fun. So this is the back half of that, which is kind of crazy as a crayon. Here's the other chunk of that as well. But I just think this is so fun, like this like little torn bag with the colors and pattern with like this random coloring page. It was kind of fun just putting random things together that I thought looked good. But this was definitely like a conscious decision. Like I was definitely looking at how pages and paper were next to each other. More from this book as well that I got from a Goodwill a long time ago. Pen Pal Buns, you've already gotten some of this actually in the mail, so you're already getting some pages of this. More of this old sketchbook paper, more of this map. I had a giant chunk of a map. I did add some washi tape here and there. Again, I really tried not to go crazy with the embellishments because I'm gonna want to do that once I'm putting stuff in. Some stripies. I had a lot of this drawing paper here. There's the gators, which I thought was kind of funny with this page. It's kind of like they're looking at them in a weird way. I'm sure this will all get covered up with stuff, but it is what it is. And then the back of the signature again. I tried to pick kind of thicker scrapbook paper or cardstock for kind of the outer pages of each signature. It kind of just held things better together versus the Snow White pages, which I learned after using this as kind of like the front junk journal cover. So that's that. So this is the back. Again, really simple. I did put paper, I lined the inside and outside with some scrapbook paper. So I could have kept the original Snow White book, but I just really liked this paper and I thought that it would be just a fun kind of change. So that's my personal junk journal. Let's take a look now at the baby's junk journal. Okay, so this is the baby's junk journal, which I'm very excited about. And this was the second one that I put together, so I definitely think I had a bit more confidence when it came to assembling things together and picking papers, because I made my personal one all the way through first before I put this one together. I also decided for this one to have a bit of a theme. So the theme on the inside, or at least the inside pages, is all like space kind of adventure, like space adventure theme, I would say. You know, I wanted it to be a little bit leaning to the boy side, but not like overly boy pages. And I also didn't want it to be like very baby-esque, which makes sense because I just am not really into like baby motifs at all, or like I didn't want to have like, you know, light blues and I just didn't want it to look like a baby book. I just wanted it to be really fun and colorful and run with the space theme, because James and I are nerds and we love Star Trek, and it just kind of works. So the golden book was the I Am Mr. Spock, which I picked because the inside illustrations are really, really colorful. They're super fun, which you'll see. I decided to leave the cover as is, which might be a theme I do with the books for the baby, just that I keep the exterior open. I'm not sure, to be determined. Again, I had some leftover fabric for the binding, and yeah, let's get right to it. I do think I put more paper in these signatures because it's definitely a little bit thicker. And I also used not only some of my own recycled kind of paper, but I also went to a craft store and bought a lot of this paper because I was doing a theme. So the theme is both good and bad. Bad because it will cause you to go buy more paper that you don't need, but good because it's a lot easier to assemble signatures and pages when you have a theme and you can kind of gather pages together. I'm definitely already seeing that and experiencing that with my Halloween junk journal that right now I'm just kind of saving pages for. I don't have it built or anything like that, but just in the gathering process, it's definitely a lot easier when you have like a theme in mind. So although I kept the outside cover exposed with the I Am Mr. Spock, I did decide to line the inside. So the inside has this really fun planetary paper, and again, this was just some leftover fabric that I had that I just kind of tore and throw it in there. I'm really not trying to be a perfectionist with this at all. Again, using some thicker cardstock on the front, this sort of like starry paper, which I just really loved. It was really fun finding some of this paper, and I believe I think I shared in my last Patreon blog post, I think it's in the June blog post, this paper pad. So a lot of these guys, I think this one, and even this one is all from that one particular paper pad, which made it a lot easier. Again, you can start to see some of the Spock pages coming through here. So you can see how colorful it is. It's so bright, and like the illustrations are really fun, especially when they're on planets with the plants and stuff, and there's pinks and blues, and I just really liked that. I did decide to incorporate a little bit of this map that I had just as a neutral, because when I was putting the paper together, I kind of realized how dark everything was. So I had this huge piece. This is like the wrapping paper you get at Paper Source. I have these huge pieces of this wrapping paper, and I decided to cut that up and use it as pages. So it's a really nice neutral that I was able to integrate in. This was just some additional paper that I got just to add in, so this wasn't out of the planetary thing at all. Here I'm starting to play with tabs a little bit. Again, probably something I will do later once I'm adding stuff in, but I did just want to kind of get one in there and kind of just play with the idea a little bit. I think this is in the paper pad or in that paper stack. This was from a book that someone had sent me. She's actually a Patreon, so hello. I don't want to call her out though, but it was in a history of horror and sci-fi book, and they have these really fun old sci-fi movie images in it. So I pulled some of those for the book because I thought that would be really fun. So here's some spacemen and they're on a planet, whatever old movie this is, which is really fun. There's some text on the back, Destination Inner Space, Destination Moon, so that's really fun. Again, just some simple kind of blue paper that I kind of just pulled separately to curate together with everything else. I believe this was in that paper stack as well. So you can see it's themed and it all goes together, but it's not overly matchy-matchy. I think that's the big thing for me, and I probably should have said this in the beginning, is that it seems like a lot of what's in the junk journaling world, when you look around, a lot of it is vintage paper heavy and delicate white lace and vintage papers, and it's a lot of creams and neutrals, and that's all good if that's what you're into, but that's not really my style. I am envisioning these junk journals being crazy and colorful and just fun and just having stuff that I'm drawn to, like this, you know what I mean? And just having them be crazy with no rules or regulations in terms of colors or anything like that. So I'm really hoping to kind of, even though I'm junk journaling and doing a golden book junk journal, which is very common and what a lot of people do, I'm really hoping to kind of put my own twist on this because I don't intend for it to have that vintagey, delicate sort of vibe whatsoever. This was some leftover bug paper that I had, which I just thought was really cute. I don't know, they kind of look like little planetary insects or something. Here's some of that blue paper that was also in my journal as well, my personal one. Just some simple black paper. Here's a chunk of that. This was what was left over of what I used to cover the front and back. Here is more of that original Star Trek book pages. Again, super colorful and fun. And I left that as a center spread there for the first signature. Again, here's the back half of things. You can see where I just took paper and glued it on and kind of just folded it over, creating an edge and kind of adjusting the sizes of the pages. So you kind of have some fun overlapping happening here of things, which I thought was really fun. Again, more of kind of leftover pieces. Here's one little flap. Didn't want to go crazy. There's definitely more paper in these, I can tell. Here's the Deadly Mantis, again from that horror book, so some other sci-fi thing. Here's the feet of those sci-fi guys. Another little kind of flap here, and this particular image I had been saving because it has the lion on it, because the baby will be a Leo, so I've saved some little lion things here and there, which I thought would be really cute. So that's that. More of this textured paper that was also, oh no, this is the back of the map, sorry, back of the map, but it actually does have a little bit of a texture to it, which is kind of nice. See, I think this map paper really does help break up the colors of things just a little bit here. We have the Enterprise in the back, more of that old drawing paper, and there's the back of signature 1. Then we start into signature 2, and here you can see where I've learned my lesson. After doing my own junk journal, I'm using definitely the thicker cardstock or thicker scrapbook paper as that first page, because it really does help to kind of keep your signatures together a little bit more. And here I did create a pocket, so I have a nice big sort of pocket here in the front with some leftover paper. The Vulcan mind meld happening there. Important stuff. Important stuff. More leftover scraps of paper, torn and put in. Here's another little tab. So you can see where I definitely learned a lot making my first one and then coming over to this one. And now Lurch is snoring in the background. Not sure if you can hear that. Some leftover paper from my lunar online class. You guys might remember this. I think I used some in my sample, but I used this to create envelopes that I mailed out from my Etsy shop. So I had a ton of this paper left over. A little flappy flap there. More of the original book. Here's just some stars. This is like old, it actually feels like vellum paper, kind of. It doesn't feel like regular paper. Not entirely sure, but I like the combination of like this teal with the stars and the purple. It's kind of fun. So the theme is definitely present throughout, but it's not like in your face, you know, it's not like crazy. Little UFO, some blue wood. This was all leftover paper that I had that needed a home. Center signature. I probably should have broken this up with something else, but it's fine. It is what it is. A lot more neutral happening here. The back side of that horror page. Drawing paper. Again, a little chunk. So now you're seeing kind of the back side of things. Here's the other side of this as well with the little flap. So it just gives me a lot of options. I loved this paper. This like with a little bit of the metallic and the stars. Ugh, love it. Love, love, love. This paper I was not crazy about, but I think this was double-sided, or I don't entirely remember, but I'm sure this will end up getting covered with stuff anyways. More of this little chunk of paper here, more of the original Star Trek book. Here is another pocket as well that is on the back page of the signature. So nice 2 big pockets in that one. Then we're moving into the third signature here. Got this really fun galaxy paper. Some stars and starry constellation-y stuff. Again, more from the book. Again, it's so colorful and fun. Ooh, hey. More of the map paper. So you can see where I'm just kind of taking big chunks of paper and just using it in multiple places. I thought this was really fun. I have had this random cardstock, polka dot cardstock for so long, and it's so nice to finally like use it somewhere. But I like this combination of papers and pages. I think it's kind of fun. Even this side, I put a little bit of the map on the back side of this just to kind of give it a little bit of a contrast. More of the moon paper, which I love. Some Planet of the Apes action in here. I just love these little pages. And I've saved more of this as well to like actually use when I'm putting things in there when the time comes to start actually junk journaling in it. I keep wanting to say junking. When I start junking in it, let's make that a thing, okay? Here's some more like random textured paper that was really old that I've had forever. More blue, this random blue cardstock again that I've had forever. It's just so nice to use up paper. You can see this was the front of the original book because I just had rearranged things around. So here's the back side of the signature. I think actually this particular page I strengthened up with some tape a little bit there because the original pages are pretty thin from the golden book. So this is really like the back side of the pages. Not a whole lot of commentary to add here. More Planet of the Apes. Another little kind of chunk here. More of the blue. I just turned this into a flap rather than just cutting it, just to give me a little something to play with. Again, more of that neutral map color coming in and some of this blue. I really love this paper too. Neutral with a little bit more of the book. And of course, trouble with tribbles here at the end. You gotta love that. And then again, the back as well with still the planets and moons and that fabric peeking through as well. I thought that this kind of black gray, it's not tie-dye, but whatever you call this, kind of works with everything without it being overly spacey. So that is the baby's junk journal. So yeah, guys, that was a look at my brand new venture into junk journaling here, my blank junk journals, and I'm like itching to start putting stuff into them. I've been collecting things into separate little envelopes for both of these guys, and I do plan on documenting it along the way for you. So stay tuned for junk journal with me videos, whatever the series will be called. I have no idea, but I do plan on turning those into videos, so I hope that you will enjoy junking with me. Let's get junky with it, right? Oh, maybe that's what I should call it. Let's get junky with it. So yeah, any resources that I mention, I will be sure to put links in the post, the Patreon post for you. If you guys have any questions, feel free to leave comments and I will do my best to answer them. And yeah, stay tuned for more junk journaling videos. I'm looking forward to getting junky with it and sharing the progress on these two with all of you. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!